And we're kicking off with Bray Wyatt, as his return to WWE last October was a huge deal, but it's been quite some time since we last saw the former Universal Champion on TV. Due to an illness that took hold prior to WrestleMania, Wyatt has been removed from all internal rosters within WWE, and there's been no shortage of rumors about his future with the company. One rumor that did the rounds recently is that WWE intends for Wyatt to return to TV as the Fiend, as WWE has reportedly been underwhelmed with his character so far, but if WWE wants this, it may be easier said than done. On Twitter, Jason Baker, the man who created the Fiend design, revealed that it is going to be difficult to resurrect the character given that all mask molds were destroyed last year. As we reported yesterday, Wyatt's return is said to be on paper, and you can learn more about what WWE has planned for his return by clicking on the link in the description field. Despite the ovation Wyatt received last October, his return has been underwhelming, and it's been reported that Bray has been dealing with mental health problems since his return, as well as issues with WWE creative. With Alexa Bliss's pregnancy indefinitely postponing plans for the pair to work an angle together, WWE will need a new plan for Bray Wyatt, but it appears this new plan won't involve The Fiend. In fact, a source within WWE has said that WWE's current plan is for Wyatt to face Edge at SummerSlam in a career versus retirement match between the two. The plan would be for Wyatt to win, saving his career and ending Edge's in-ring career for good, with the belief being that defeating Edge in the Hall of Famer's final match would help establish him once more as a top name in WWE. But what do you think to all this, and how have you found Wyatt's return so far? And most importantly, what do you think WWE should do with the former Universal Champion? AEW Dynamite now, and ahead of this week's show, Tony Khan was promoting yet another huge announcement regarding Collision. For weeks it has been reported that Collision will feature CM Punk, who hasn't been seen since AEW All Out, and during Dynamite, Khan confirmed the return of the former world champion. Khan wasted little time with his announcement, reminding fans that the June 17th debut show will happen in the Allstate Arena in Chicago, which is a great place for Punk's return to happen. Punk was initially thought to be involved with the new show, but was pulled from promotional material at the Warner Bros. Discovery upfronts last month, which raised questions about his future with Collision. Whatever issues Punk and AEW had, they've been put to the side, and the announcement of his return drew a big pop from the crowd at this week's Dynamite. A few CM Punk chants also broke out in the building, which we haven't heard for some time, and on Instagram, Punk responded to the news with a clip from Billy Madison, leaving fans amused and curious as to what he has planned. Fans have also questioned why Punk's return was announced this week, rather than when Collision was first announced, or kept as a surprise, and it's been reported that AEW has been struggling with ticket sales for Collision, and believe the confirmation of Punk's involvement will help fill seats. For many, Punk's return was something that seemed impossible following what happened at All Out last September, and it'll be interesting to see how his return goes down in Chicago in just a few weeks' time. Punk will be the biggest name to appear at AEW Collision's premiere show, which will likely feature other huge names from the company, but one of the biggest names isn't expected to appear. A Twitter announcement revealed that former AEW World Champion Jon Moxley will appear at Wrestling Revolver's Ring of Destiny event on June 17th in Dayton, Ohio, the same day as Collision. There is always the possibility that AEW could force Moxley off the Revolver show, as they did just that by pulling Mox from an OTT event on March 18th. When that happened, it was because AEW wanted Moxley at the first House Rules event, which took place in the former World Champion's home state of Ohio. Moxley hasn't exactly been flattering of CM Punk, given everything that happened, and has said that he is tired of all the drama that has shifted focus away from the action in the ring. In addition to Moxley, Konosuke Takeshita has been booked for Ring of Destiny, so any fans heading to Chicago to see either wrestler should prepare to be disappointed. For over 1,000 days, Roman Reigns has dominated everybody as Universal Champion, and the list of names to fall to him reads like a who's who of modern-day wrestling. John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Edge, Cody Rhodes, and Bryan Danielson are just a select few to have failed to dethrone the head of the table, but what's next for him? Many predict that Reigns will hold on to the title until WrestleMania 40, but according to a Blockbuster report from an insider, his reign as champion may have ended well before next April. According to sources who reached out, one plan being discussed right now is for Reigns to lose the title 1 month from today at WWE's Money in the Bank event in London, England. As controversial as it may sound, such a shocking moment could be what's best for current programming, and who will be defeating Reigns? None other than Drew McIntyre. McIntyre and Reigns had an exceptional match in Cardiff, Wales last September at Clash at the Castle, with Reigns retaining thanks to the arrival of Solo Sikoa. And with the 1,000-day milestone reached, now could be the time for the title to change hands. Drew hasn't had much success against Reigns though, and is in fact 0-4 at premium live events, losing to Reigns at WrestleMania 35, Stomping Ground 2019, Survivor Series 2020, and Clash at the Castle. With that said, Reigns' mind has been preoccupied as of late with the implosion of the Bloodline, which resulted in the Tribal Chief losing at Night of Champions last week, his first premium live event defeat since getting himself disqualified at the 2022 Royal Rumble. The visual of Sami Zayn standing tall over the fallen head of the table was a sight to see, and it could be McIntyre who is able to ride that momentum into London. It's been 6 years since a WWE World Championship changed hands in London, and with WWE talking about more international premium live events, having a title change in the UK makes a lot of sense. It was all the way back at SummerSlam 1992 in Wembley Stadium that the British Bulldog defeated Bret Hart for the Intercontinental title, and the fervent UK crowd 30 years ago has remained a key part of what makes that match so iconic. It's not like the Money in the Bank event has not seen dramatic title changes in the past, as who can forget CM Punk leaving WWE, albeit briefly, as WWE Champion in 2011, or all three members of The Shield holding the title at the show in 2016. Reigns has been champion for so long that it's hardly a surprise that many fans won over by the Tribal Chief character have been soured, believing the reign has just gone on for too long. With Money in the Bank, WWE has the perfect opportunity to not only change things up, but to right the wrong of last September, given that many feel McIntyre should have won in Cardiff. Sure, Drew was drafted to Raw recently, but as WWE has shown, the adherence to the draft is somewhat lax, and we're sure a storyline could explain McIntyre moving to the Blue brand. Drew McIntyre ending Roman Reigns' title reign and kicking off another run on top of the card while the Tribal Chief deals with the Bloodline would make for an epic summer, one WWE needs to compete with the summer AEW has planned. We should stress that this idea is right now being considered, and of course plans could change, but do you think McIntyre should make his return to WWE TV and be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns? Sound off in the comments. It was on the post-WrestleMania episode of Raw that Brock Lesnar turned on Cody Rhodes, setting up a match at Backlash that Rhodes would win. Lesnar would get his win back in dominant fashion at Night of Champions, with a rubber match expected for later this year, but some feel that this feud is doing the American Nightmare no favors. Speaking on the Click This podcast, Kevin Nash dissected the recent segment on Raw in which Lesnar broke the arm of Rhodes, and he feels the segment went too far, and fans simply can't suspend their disbelief. They continue to expose Cody in these situations where, I'm sorry man, he was a good high school wrestler. He's not an NCAA champion, and he's not a UFC champion. Who the fuck is medically clearing these guys? It's the worst. That's what's wrong with it. Nash isn't the only one with an issue with the storyline, as on K100, Disco Inferno said that Rhodes being able to hold his own against Brock Lesnar with a broken arm was just too much. He explained, "This was absurd. It was like a parody of a wrestling match in my opinion. Supposedly Cody was wrestling with a broken arm, and a guy that's a UFC heavyweight champion had him in a Kimura and didn't just snap his arm in half? He's got a Kimura on a broken arm. The visual picture should have been him literally snapping the bones, like breaking his arm in half, right? Like a compound fracture." Many feel that WWE making up this kayfabe injury is ridiculous, especially given that Cody wrestled with a legitimate torn pec last year in an actual impressive feat of determination. The blood feud between Cody Rhodes and ex-UFC mauler Brock Lesnar is seemingly not over, as WWE is probably saving their blow-off match for a big event like SummerSlam, as Brock is unlikely to travel to the UK for Money in the Bank. That would leave Rhodes free for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, though it'll be interesting to see how WWE books him and his arm injury, and what have you thought of the Brock-Cody feud so far? Over to AEW Dynamite, as during an interview this week, Adam Page mentioned that Kenny Omega has left the country, but hasn't returned to his native Canada. It wasn't revealed where Omega has gone, but we may already know, as many suspect he's gone to Japan to recruit his Golden Lovers tag team partner Kota Ibushi. The pair have had a ton of history with one another, and Ibushi has spoken in the past about plans to work with AEW, and remains one of wrestling's hottest free agents at this time. After Double or Nothing went off the air, Omega told the live crowd that he has one or two really good friends that he can call on for help, which many have taken as a nod to Ibushi. With the Elite losing to the Blackpool Combat Club at Double or Nothing, it's clear that Omega's faction needs something new to even the odds, and that very much could be Kota Ibushi. As we mentioned earlier, Dynamite saw CM Punk's return be confirmed, but the response to this blockbuster news was somewhat mixed. While there were some cheers, there was a sizable portion of the audience that gave an unfavorable response, which could be a huge part of Punk's return. Given everything that has gone on in the saga between CM Punk, The Elite, and AEW, it makes sense for the company to lean into these boos and reintroduce the Second City Saints as a fully fledged heel. Punk's return will be a big deal if he returns as a face, but with the people he has beef with mostly being faces, such as The Elite, it could be mere weeks away before he returns as a heel. At WWE Night of Champions, Seth Rollins made history by capturing the World Heavyweight Championship, his first world title victory since 2019. The favorite to win when the tournament was announced, Rollins went through Shinsuke Nakamura, Damian Priest, Finn Balor, and finally AJ Styles to emerge as champion in Jeddah, but what's next for the champ? In an interview with WWE's The Bump, Rollins was asked that question and made it clear that he plans to be a fighting champion. He said, "I want the competition. I want anybody from any brand. I don't care if it's SmackDown, Raw, NXT. I don't care if it's from anywhere across the globe. I want people to come through that curtain. I want them to challenge me, whether it's a shot at the title, whether it's the title itself, whether it's a tag match, 6-man cage match, doesn't matter to me. I want the fight. I want the excitement. I want to elevate myself and this title along with me." Rollins plans to defend his title as much as possible, unlike a certain tribal chief on SmackDown, and in a direct dig at Roman Reigns, the World Heavyweight Champion spoke about Reigns handpicking his opponents during his 1,000-day reign as champion. Roman Reigns handpicks his opponents, you can see it, he's been doing it for years. It's a smart move if you're only interested in yourself, but I've been interested in myself for a long time. Myself is great, but also myself is fine. I'm gonna be fine, so let's open it up. I want everybody coming. Rollins holds the distinction of being the only person to win a title match against Reigns over the past 3 years, albeit by DQ, and would you like to see the two face off again? Possibly at WrestleMania? Sound off in the comments. On this week's Raw, Rollins teamed up with AJ Styles to defeat Finn Balor and Damian Priest, and the match had an interesting throwback to a spot from 2006. In one memorable moment, Rollins slid out of the ring and put his arm around Rhea Ripley, who thought he was Dominic until she turned around and saw who she was canoodling with. During the bump, Rollins discussed the spot and said that he hopes neither Rhea nor Dominic were too offended, and he also mentioned my old protege Murphy as someone he hopes wasn't offended. Fans will know that Rhea and Murphy are in a real-life relationship, and it was interesting for the former superstar to get mentioned, given that he is with AEW and goes by Buddy Matthews. The funny spot reminded a lot of fans of a similar spot with Melina and Shawn Michaels from Survivor Series 2006, where Melina mistook HBK for her then-boyfriend, Johnny Nitro. In the interview, Rollins went on to discuss the spot and why he decided to put his arms around Ripley on Raw. He said, "You know, I saw an opening, I had to take it. I don't know what else to tell you. It was right there for the picking. It made for good television and a lot of fun." This spot was certainly a highlight from Raw, but who did it better? Rhea and Seth, or Michaels and Melina? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. During this week's Raw, Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey captured the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships, something that's been in the plans for some time. It was last December that Rousey said she wanted a run with the tag titles, but the baddest woman on the planet has been hardly complimentary of the division she now rules. Speaking to New York Post after winning the titles, Rousey criticized the company's women's division, calling it dismally shallow, and said that there's not enough women to keep her and Baszler for a month. Rousey added that the biggest challenge that the team have is getting WWE to actually care, and these comments have received a mixed response, with some saying WWE does not care about its women's division. Others, however, felt that Rousey went too far in taking shots at the other women in WWE, with one fan merely responding with the word "Yikes." Some fans pointed out the names WWE have used in the past for the women's tag division, including Bayley, Sasha Banks, Naomi, and others, and they couldn't get WWE to care. And what do you make to Rousey's comments this week? And we're ending with Don Callis, who was on this week's Dynamite and had a ton of heat with the San Diego crowd. The crowd were so loud that Callis struggled to get a word in, and many found that very similar to the response received by WWE's Dominic Mysterio. On Twitter, many compared Dom to Don, with one fan saying they'd love to see a promo face-off between the two to see who got the most heat. Callis has seemingly taken Konosuke Takeshita under his wing, and whatever's next for the pair, expect Don to be on the receiving end of plenty of boos from the fans.